Today we're going to do the hot pink prom dress. It's got a mermaid tail and we need to shorten it. So the first thing that I do is, well, I'll show you here. The shot got the mermaid. Only kidding. She wanted to have a piece of it so she could match it to her boyfriend's bow tie that he's getting. So I've measured my marks here and my pins, and they're about 6. I'm taking the side, and I'm going to take the other side, and it was 7. This side was 7, so I'm going to split the difference, and I'm going to make it 6.5. So then what I want to do is I want to come down another 1/2 inch just to make sure that I have enough to roll under. I'm going to do a rolled hem. This has horsehair, which I'm cutting off, thankfully. I might save it just because you never know when you're going to need horsehair, even though I don't want it. I know that makes no sense, but so now I'm going along and I'm just going to measure, and I'm writing down so this is the back. So I'm making a plan on my notebook. I wrote down my hemline, and then I subtracted 1/2 inch away because I want to have that much leeway when I do my hem. I want to do a 1/4 inch, but I want to roll it up twice. I thought I was going to try a rolled up hem, but I did, and it didn't work out. So 1/2 inch is what I'm doing here, and I'm writing down all of the measurements so that I can take the pins out and keep moving smoothly through the dress. But I did find that I had a big problem with the chalk, and I'll show you the problem at the end of the video because that's when it happened. Now, some people that I've seen, they take the center back and then they fold it, and then this is a mirror, they call it. I don't want to do that. I don't know why it doesn't, my brain doesn't want to wrap around that. I gotta be careful not to get my ink on here. So this was, what I mean by that is that they find the center, then they fold it over on itself, and then they cut it, the hemline where, not the hemline, they cut where they want to sew. And I found that I couldn't do that, so I did it this way. So if my hemline measures from the pin to the original hem, then I drop the ruler down 1/2 inch and make it 9.5 inches for where I want to cut it. So I'm giving myself 1/2 inch every time. So that way I will have plenty of room to turn up the hem when I'm sewing it. My dog's sleeping next to me while I'm doing this voiceover. And cut line. I did the measuring. Now I'm going to make the cut line. And then I'm going to cut. And then a circle equals cut line. Circle plus number equals cut line, because you don't want to cut on your hemline. I did it once, I did it twice, not on a dress but on some pants, and it was not fun. I had to go and buy the person a pair of new pants, and I was very embarrassed to tell them, even though one of them was my friend, one of them was my neighbor, and they didn't care. Well, she said she didn't care, but I certainly did. Okay, so now this is 7. So I'm going to take it down 1/2 of an inch. It's actually, that's going to be 6.5. And then this one is 7.5, so I'm going to take it to 7. I'm going to try not to talk. And then this should probably be like 8.5. It's 8. So I'm going to take that to 7.5. The dress had quite a bit of a tail when, a trail or a tail, when she, train, when she tried it on, and she wanted it to be removed. So she wanted to keep some of it because it wasn't going to look good just all one length with the way that it was kind of mermaid out. What I did was I pinned what I thought looked even all the way around to the side, and then pinned differently in the front according to her shoes and where she wanted it to be in the front. But it ends up being very similar to when you do a dart and you start small and then you graduate out, and then you come back in. Well, it was kind of similar to a dart. That's kind of how my mind thought of it. And so all I did was just go around and mark from the pins 1/2 an inch away from the pin, so that I could have that be my cut line. And if it was a little bit off, then I looked at what was on the other side and I kind of made them both the same. Like, I think I went like 6 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches, 9 inches until the center was 10. And then took it down 1/2 of an inch for the cut line, and it came out nice and even that way. And this is what I'm doing here. So now it's time to just go for it. So I just went right up the side seam here, and when you use nice sharp scissors, you should be able to go through it really easily. Some people use rotary cutters. I know how to use a rotary cutter. I prefer not to. I like my scissors. I like getting rid of the pins fast, so I'm taking the pins out and I'm just gonna put my scissors to work and make sure this is all nice and flat. I do not want to cut the liner or any other part of the dress. It happens. I mean, it hasn't happened to me. I don't ever want it to happen to me. I'm just gonna look where my line is. I'm taking big chunks. You can see I'm like opening up the scissors and moving forward and moving forward, and that's how you keep it so that you don't get the jagged edges. I mean, every once in a while I get maybe a little one, but if you keep taking the scissors and taking really good chunks like that, then you should do fine if you just use a good heavy pair of scissors that are sharp. Now I'm just gonna continue to cut the rest of this hem and get it into the sewing machine. I'm going to show you what I was trying to talk about earlier, like a mirror cutting. It's when you line up the sides and you get the center and then you cut half of it and then you fold the other half and then you can cut right along there. But especially with this it's like, it says it's polyester, but it's like, feels like Lycra fabric. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that, so I just put it over to the on top of each other and added the marks and just continued cutting the way that I was cutting, like one level at a time, because that made more sense to me. And after my last dress that the horsehair braid dress that I just finished up, I have to do what makes sense to me. And I want to try new things and learn from other people's videos. And then I have to do what's comfortable. And so this, for me, is what was comfortable, just continuing to mark. Although, like I said, the chalk did me wrong, and it was very frustrating at the end when I got all done sewing this. Oh, there goes my dog snoring next to me. So I'm going to finish cutting this now.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. Now the morning running wild. The moonlight, summer sky, it was the best we ever had. And we'll stay young forever. We'll never have regrets. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. We're gonna be. We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
I'm going to try this woolly thread, woolly nylon. I got it on Amazon. Oh, look at that. Huh. Just a little tip. If you got one of these with your sewing machine and you don't know what to do with it. Okay. Parallel, I think so. And then this lifts up your presser foot with your knee, so you can have an extra hand when you're sewing. And at first, it feels funny, but just like everything else, you get used to it, and then it becomes your friend. So I'm just gonna take my woolly that I've never used before, and I'm gonna put it on my bobbin, and then I'm gonna get a Microtex needle and put it in my sewing machine. Another thing or tip that I never use is these things that come with your sewing machine. I never use them. I really honestly didn't even know what they were for, but they're to put inside of cones, so that way when you put them on here, they spin better instead of doing this. What I end up doing sometimes is putting them just in a cup and then putting the cup behind the sewing machine. But I'm going to try this. So I'm trying all these new things today. And I put on whatever music feels like it's going to relax me for the day, but I can't have it on now because of copyright. So that's what I do. So I'm folding this over a scant 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going really slow. I'm speeding it up just because it will be boring probably for you. And I'm doing a little bit at a time, and I'm trying not to stretch it. I'm trying to allow the sewing machine to take it through the Microtex needle, and I think the woolly thread in the bobbin is really making a difference. I checked my stitches, and I think they look great. So I don't feel confident enough to roll it over twice and sew it that way like some other sewers do. So I technically could leave it like this because it won't unravel, but I want to roll it over on itself. And this time I'm going to go slower because I want to make sure that the stitches are nice and even on the outside. And the landmarks that I'm using is I'm trying to keep my threads that are from the hem that I just made. I'm trying to make them go right in between the middle of that foot. And I check my stitches to make sure that we're still doing good. I always do that. I don't do it the whole time, but just to make sure that when I'm sewing on knit, I always get a little nervous that it's going to turn out like a lettuce edge, which it's done many times. So this combination of the wool thread and the woolly thread and the needle, it's an 80-12, really made a difference, I think, with this. And I really like how this came out in the end. So just going all the way around one more time for this hem takes a while. That's why I put the clip in the beginning, just because when I get closer to hearing that clip on my table, then I know that I'm almost done, because it just sometimes feels like it takes a long time. But eventually we get to the end. Here we are. I'm just going to clip these threads here, give you a little peek of the end here, which doesn't show up really good on the camera because of the color, I guess. But I'll get another version there, and I'm looking at the chalk and I'm getting worried. This is the best I could do to show you the prom dress. And the hem. And the lining, I just did a quick serge. My sewing machine. And then this is what I wanted to show you. This was what it looked like all around the bottom of the dress from where I pinned it. This is the soap and warm water that I used to get it out. And see how that stain was like that? So I had to go over it again and just use a tiny, tiny bit. And I just used my hand soap from my kitchen. And then I filled up a jar of warm water. I dipped a cotton cloth, this cotton cloth, in it. And then I got a little speck of soap. Oh, that's too much. A little tiny soap. And then what I did was I just gently washed it. And then I finally got it to come clean. You just have to make sure you don't use a lot of soap, or else you will have a big stain. This is water with steam, which is what you usually do when you're using the blue tailors chalk. You just steam it, hit it with a little water, and it takes it right off. But apparently when you're using Lycra or Spandex, which it also says it's 100% polyester, it gets into the grooves, I guess, and it actually goes all the way to the back. So I will never use chalk on Lycra or Spandex again. That was so bad. I even tried using rubbing alcohol. Now I had taken the hem that I had cut off, and that's what I was doing my samples with. And I obviously didn't want to do it to the dress. But when I put the rubbing alcohol on it with a cotton ball, it took off some of the color from the dress. So it was a huge nightmare. And I never thought that tailor truck would do so bad. Now, I have a video where I put it on cotton and I used a little bit of soap and water and it came off. But I will not ever use it on the Lycra again. And I don't know, unless you know something else about it than I do, I would never use it on this. So that's my big takeaway from the tailor's truck in this gown. And as you can see, the gown I was able to get it out, and I was able to get it out without having any stains, water stains, which I was so afraid of. So afraid of it. That's not a water stain. That's the other side. But as you can see, it's hard to tell with this color, and I think with my lighting. And there's my little fur ball, and I have something coming up for him. I bought, just a side note, I bought a new flea and tick collar because he keeps getting them on him. And I'm going to show you that in my next video. And if you want to get a natural flea collar and tick collar and get a discount, then you can look for that in my next video. But this is the gown, and I'm so happy it's done.